Namaste and welcome to another episode on Kali Yuga Dharma. I have not been able to update episodes on this channel frequently these days because I have been really busy and have had a lack of time. However, since now I'm back to updating my channel, I thought why not start a new series on a new sub-series on a new class of scriptures, Agamashastras. So in today's episode, we will be saying what are Agamashastras? What exactly are these scriptures and how are they different from other scriptures? We often hear of Agamashastras with connection to temples. We always hear people say that, this temple follows this Agama, that temple follows that Agama. Are Agamashastras basically user manuals of how to construct and run temples? They are also that, but they are not just that. Agama Shastras are of two types broadly before we start off. I need to clarify that Agama Shastras are of two categories, Vedic and Avaidik. What are Vedic Agama Shastras? Vedic Agama Shastras are those Agama Shastras that are completely in sync with the Vedas. They will never contradict them and they will completely uphold them. Whereas Avaidik Agama Shastras will be in sync with the Vedas here and there, only partially, but in a lot of places they will contradict them and they will go against them. Now, we will explore a little more on the differences between these, but for the purpose of this episode, we will be largely exploring only Vedic Agamas. Now, let's go to the question of what is an Agama Shastra. Agama Shastras are revealed scriptures like Itihasas, like Puranas, and like the Vedas themselves. They are revealed scriptures. They are also eternal in nature. But there is a difference from the Vedas. The Vedas will speak cryptically, where the Agamas will speak very directly and blatantly. The Vedas will tell you philosophy and very high concepts, whereas the Agamas will talk more directly. The Vedas might talk about metaphysical things more often, whereas the Agamas will talk a lot about physical things more directly. The Vedas and the Agamas both have originally been sung in a swara. That is common between the two of them. However, the Vedas will consist of mantras and invocations and praises, whereas the Agamas will be more of statements of what is to be done, what is not to be done, how something is to be viewed, how something is not to be viewed, how something is to be understood, how something is not to be understood. The Vedas will speak about very cryptic and very high metaphysical abstract things, whereas the Agamas will speak more directly about duty based things. But the aim of the Agamas is to basically guide a follower, a devotee, on how to achieve the fruits of the Vedas. The Vedas will say there are these fruits to be achieved, these punya karmas to be done, these ways to please Bhagavan. The Agama will tell you how to do it. The Agama will tell you how, the Veda will tell you the what. It's like that. They run in parallel with the Vedas. The Agamas and the Vedas won't have lines that, they won't have verses and lines that are in common with one another, but they will tell you pretty much the same thing, but in two different points of view. One philosophically and one more duty based, direct manner. Finally, Agama Shastras not only run in parallel with Vedas, they are also revealed. Deva Rishis, Brahma Rishis and Devas like Shiva, etc., they do penance to Shriman Narayana, and Shriman Narayana takes a certain form and he reveals an Agama Shastra to them, which they will teach to their followers, and they will teach the relevant part to the relevant follower. There are certain parts of the Agama Shastra that is not going to be relevant to me, but it might be relevant to Indradeva and his followers. It might be relevant to Maruta and the Marutganas. It might be relevant to certain Rakshasa Devas. So the preceptor gurus of these Devas like Brihaspati or Shukracharya will have knowledge of those parts of the Agama Shastra and they will teach them. What part is relevant to me as a human being and a Vaishnava on the earth today? My Acharya will teach me only that part. That will be parts of the Agama Shastras that we don't even have knowledge of today because one, well, we have not preserved them, they are lost, and two, they were not revealed also to us because they are not relevant to us. We cannot do some things. So Agamas are also divided in that way, for whom which part is relevant. Now, Agamas cover a variety of topics, but in a very non-exhaustive sense, I have clubbed most of the topics of the Agamas into these four buckets. Agamas tell you how the physical world around you can be used to achieve metaphysical results how the actions that we do here, how they bear fruit with respect to karma, devas, devatas, things that we cannot see. They tell you how the things that you can see around you can be used to achieve the abstract, invisible phalas, fruits. They tell you how to interact with God who may not be perceivable by us on an everyday basis. We can't touch God, feel God, smell God in a literal sense on a daily basis. The way we touch a coffee table, the way we open a window, the way we open a cupboard, we may not be able to interact with Bhagavan in that way. But the Agamas tell you that using the physical world around you itself, how you can gain that level of proximity with Bhagavan. So it bridges the unseen metaphysical with the visible physical. Now, how do we worship Bhagavan? Can we just define our own ways of worship? Can I chop the heads of 10 men, offer it to Vishnu and say, "Oh Vishnu, please accept this. Or I'm offering you the heads of these 10 men as sacrifice." He will curse me to Naraka. He will not like it. So what kind of worship is acceptable and what is not acceptable? Can I make up whatever I want? Can I just start doing something today and can I wear a zoot suit and a lungi, and can I go into a temple and say like, no, I have defined a new agama myself, and from now on this is going to be the uniform that my followers should must wear while going to temple, zoot suits and lungis. Can I do that? I can't do that. Why? Because it may be pleasurable for me to do it, my followers might like it, but Bhagavan may need not like it. Agamashastras tell you how to worship Bhagavan in a way he approves. That is very important. Worshipping Bhagavan is not the important part. Worshipping him in a way he likes. They tell you that. While the statement is very simple, worshipping Bhagavan in a way he likes, executing it is difficult because there are millions and millions of ways that Bhagavan will tell you not to do things, and there are millions of ways in which Bhagavan will tell you to do things. So while the statement is very easy to grasp and understand, executing it can be difficult. And Agama Shastras are an oceanic series of religious revealed texts that actually tell you what all Bhagavan likes and does not like. And in order to execute those things, we must follow customs, norms, right from the way we sleep to the thing on which we sleep. Do we sleep on a mattress or on the floor? To the direction in which we face while we sleep, to the way in which we live, we dress up, we speak, we groom our face. Every single aspect of our every waking moment is in some way or the other adding on to a spiritual gati on which we are, and that will make us more sattvika, more rajasika, or more tamasika. And the Agama Shastras prescribe to you holistically how a civilization itself must exist. It will tell you a level of a level of depth in which almost no other religious Sanatani book will go in. For example, if you want to establish a village or a town, it will tell you what kind of a geography you should select, what kind of a place can a Sanatani go and even settle first. You're not supposed to settle just anywhere and everywhere on this earth. There are certain kinds of lakes and rivers where the lake and the river meet in a certain way, where the mountain looks a certain way, where the soil behaves in a certain way, where the plants behave in a certain way, where the animals behave in a certain way, where the wind blows in a certain way. And all these are in detail mentioned in Pancharatra Agama Shastra and Vaikhanasa Agama Shastra, in Samhitas such as Parashara Samhita, Paushkara Samhita, etc. And Bhagavan Shriman Narayana himself explains to sages such as Paushkara and Parashara that the manner in which nature interacts and geography behaves is basically his subtle way of talking to us to indicate to us what kind of a place he finds favorable for settlement and what kind of a place he finds unfavorable for settlement. And it's a whole science within the Agama Shastra Samhitas as to how we can build a town, how we should plan a city, how to build a temple in the middle, how to build a water reservoir, how different communities of different varnas should settle around that temple town over there, how they must perform their duties. It's a whole social, societal science. What all trades should be carried out over there, what all months, how different communities of people should behave over there, how we must interact with the plants and animals over there. There are hundreds of pages dedicated to these things in the Agama Shastras. This is one more thing that the Agamas, they explain in parallel with Manu Shastra how humans must establish and run civilizations. And finally, the Agama Shastra's most recurring theme is How Shriman Narayana, although he's sitting far in Vaikuntha, far away in Vaikuntha, he maintains a working relationship on a second to second basis with us. How he is present all around us in the form of air, water, sun, the Ganga water, the Tulasi plant, the Bhagavan in the temple, our own Antaryami as cows, as bulls, how he is actually interacting with us on a second to second basis, and how on a second to second level we can also interact back to him and we can please him. How he maintains a perennial, eternal connect with us, and how he is not far away from us at all, and how he is always with us. The Agamas go into very great depth of explaining this. Now we will go to each of these topics, bridging the physical and metaphysical. Pancharatra speaks primarily, the central theme of the Pancharatra is the four Vyuha avatars of Shriman Narayana. Vaikuntha Vasudeva takes three avatars, and those three plus him included are the four Vyuhas. We will be seeing what the Vyuha avatars are. Vaikuntha Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. These are the four Vyuha avatars, and these four Vyuha avatars of Bhagavan operate everything, run everything, omnipresently own everything, control everything, pervade over everything, and everything is within their shariras. All of existential reality and creation is fundamentally connected to these four Vyuhas. They own it, they create it, they destroy it, they recreate it again, and they pervade over it, and in every way it is dependent on them. They run everything over here. Agamas explain how these four Vyuha avatars are. Agama is going to explaining the powers, the Shaktis of Vishnu and Lakshmi, how the Shaktis are channelized. They have powers, they have infinite powers, how they channelize it to make things happen. How Vaikuntha is a separate realm and all Prakriti Mandala, all the universes, the multiverse is a separate realm, and from there, how they channelize their Shakti into getting things done here. It gives a special place to Sudarshana, especially the Ahirbudnya Samhita of the Pancharatra. If you come to Pancharatra temples in Tamil Nadu, that is temples like Sri Rangam or Parthasarathi or various Vishnu temples are there over here. I'm sorry, Parthasarathi may not have it. Parthasarathi is a Vaikhanasa temple. I'm sorry. If you go to Pancharatra temples like Sri Rangam or Kanchi Varadaraja Perumal or Sri Perumadur's Adikeshwar Perumal temple, these temples, you will usually have a separate Sannidhi for Sudarshana, a separate altar for Sudarshana. Pancharatra Agamashastra gives a very separate place for Sudarshana, and it tells how Sudarshana is the power cell and the power bank of Vaikuntha. He is Bhagavan's battery, basically. To put it in layman's language, he is Bhagavan's battery. How he is used to power everything. Bhagavan's thoughts and Shri's thoughts are powered by Sudarshana. They are brought into reality by Sudarshana. He is the hand that crafts everything for them and also destroys everything for them. And finally, the Agamashastras tell you how from the macro level of the cosmos, beyond clusters and galaxies and superclusters, to the micro level of the Jivatman, the atomic level of the Tanmatma, the Bhutas, the Tattvas, the Vaikarikas, etc. How from the macro to the micro, Bhagavan alone, expending his own bodily powers and his own thought, is able to keep everything under control and keeps constantly giving shape to everything according to the karmas of the Jivatmans associated thereof, and how he is guiding creation on a second to second, nanosecond to nanosecond basis using his Shaktis. This is something that the Agamas very deeply go into. Ways to revere the Almighty, as we already saw briefly, there are various ways of worship that we as Hindus, as Vaishnavas perform. We do homas that are based on Agni, Havans. We do Pitru Tarpana at rivers, lakes, etc. Then we do things like Satyanarayana Puja, which don't involve fire or water, which just involve invocations and prayers. And then we have Nama Sankirtana, recitation of names. We have song and dance, which we do at temples and all to entertain Bhagavan. Then we have Brahma Yajna, recitation of Veda Suktas by Brahmanas and Kshatriyas to, to invoke certain forms and powers of Brahma into a certain place. Then we have Sandhya Vandana, which Janayodharis have to do. And then we have Go Seva. All of these are varieties of ways of worshipping Bhagavan, all are prescribed by Agama Shastra. Now, what we should do, what we shouldn't do, what we can do, what we can't do, what are mandatory, what are optional, what all we must strive to do, and what all we must strive to do, but even if we don't do it is all right. All these Agama Shastras will explain. Then we have Devas and Devatas. There are so many Devas and so many Devatas that the Vedas speak of, that Itihasa Puranas also speak of. And their names are invoked in all the pujas and all that we do. When we especially recite Rigveda mantras and all, or when we do Aupasana Yajna, when we do Agnihotra, Gandharvas, Apsaras, and all, their names are recited in Veda mantras itself. Agamas will tell you basically how each name of every Deva is actually a name of Shriman Narayana only. And associated to the name, he has invoked a Jivatman to be a Deva for that particular name. And whenever we recite Bhagavan's name as Varuna or Agni, as Indra, as Brahma, etc., the Deva whom he has appointed to be associated in that Kalpa with that name, he will invoke that Deva, Bhagavan himself will invoke that Deva, and through him he will channelize blessings to you. The position of Devas and Devatas in the broader scheme of things, and how they are also Jivatmans only, but they are used as tools by him. This also Agama Shastras will tell you. Finally, it will also tell you how, it will give you an inkling how Sri and Narayana view acts of worship. That is, when a person is worshipping them in accordance to the Shastras, how they view it and how they will give karma phala for it. And when a person goes completely outside the boundaries of Agama Shastras but thinks that he's being devoted to them, how they will view that. The norms of showing devotion and acts of faith, Agama Shastras are the masters of that. Of course, again, we come to the topic of establishment of civilization. Right from going to a land, smelling the air over there, seeing how the water bodies over there are, whether the water bodies are positioned in a way that the Vedas approve of. Sometimes the water bodies, when they are positioned in a certain way, you should not build anything over there. So Sriman Narayana actively says that in those places you should not worship me over there. I don't want to be worshipped over there. Don't ask me why. I just don't like it. But when two rivers meet, Shriman Narayana says those are places where I like to be worshipped. When two rivers meet, like the Triveni Sangam of Varanasi, of Allahabad, sorry, of Prayag, the Triveni Sangam of Prayag. It's a very ancient civilization, the Triveni Sangam of Prayag. Why? Because the three rivers, when they meet, or when more than one river meets over there, Shriman Narayana says even in Mahabharata, that's a very auspicious place. It's an auspicious sign. And then he says the soil should have a certain behavior. Even the carnivorous animals over there, they should mind their own business. The lands where carnivorous animals tend to attack human beings, he explains in Paushkara Samhita of the Pancharatra Agama, he says that that is my way of telling you that I don't want you to settle over there. Whereas those lands where you can see carnivorous animals roaming in the distance, but they're minding their own business, that is my way of communicating to you that I want you to settle over there and I want you to build a temple over there to me and worship me over there, do yajnas, etc. The subtle ways in which he communicates through land, air, water, soil, etc., to tell us how to settle in a land. And then once we choose a land, once a rishi chooses a land to settle in, what methods to do bhumi puja? There are certain offerings you make to the bhumi over there. First, you should identify where the water sources, and then you should do a puja. You should offer certain offerings over there, invoke certain mantras. You should perform a yajna there, and then you should start digging that place in a certain way. And then when you uncover water, you should make that pond in a certain, you should fashion that pond in a certain way. And every day a person, a group of brahmanas should come and offer worship to the pond, because the form of Bhagavan in that pond wants to be worshipped in that way. So Bhagavan in one civilization itself, he'll be present as Bhagavan in the temple, Bhagavan as the pond Devata, Bhagavan as the mountain Devata, Bhagavan as the forest Devata, and Bhagavan as in the form of the cows over there. And to each of his own forms, he tells the people in that civilization, every day you should worship me in this way. So the pond, we should come and we should perform some worship every day to the pond Devata. We should perform some worship to the mountain Bhagavan over there. We should perform some worship to the temple Bhagavan over there. And to the cow Bhagavan over there, we should perform certain kinds of worship. Each and everything, right from what clothing to wear, to how to trim your beard, to how to keep a mustache, which varna person should settle in, which part of that, which side of that temple, how they must enter the temple and exit the temple and offer worship at the temple, who gets to go into the garbhagriha of the temple, and how they should perform their agamic duties over there. Every single step of civilized human life, Agama Shastras prescribe. Manu Shastra, on the other hand, also runs in parallel. It tells every varna what it should do and how governance and laws of of the Agamas should be enforced over there. Whereas Agamashastras will give you the wider picture of the spiritual, physical realm of when you make a civilization over there, how to test the place for civilization worthiness. So Agamashastras run very much in parallel with Manushastra. Tells you all these things about establishing civilization. Now we come to the Chaturvyuha. As I told you, Vaikuntha Vasudeva takes three forms: Sankarshana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. And Vaikuntha Vasudeva has six Bhaga Gunas. Each of these three forms of his are endowed with two of these qualities. The six Bhaga Gunas, Bhagatvas, are defined as Jnana Shakti, Aishwarya Bala, Virya Tejas. Jnana. Jnana refers to Bhagavan being the supreme repository of knowledge. Shakti refers to Bhagavan's basically his ability, his infinite ability to translate his thought to deed. Aishwarya refers to not prosperity or wealth, which is what the common misconception is. Aishwarya refers to his Ishwaratva, how he has a will that has no end. He has infinite free will. Aishwarya literally means infinite free will that allows him to basically do whatever he pleases. Bala. Bala refers to the potency with which he is able to cause creation to happen. Virya refers to the effortlessness with which he is able to cause things to take shape or to lose shape. And finally, Tejas. Tejas is the most physical manifestation of his power, whereby he omnipresently pervades over something, and beyond his will, he never allows, nothing can go beyond his will basically. The power that he uses to keep everything in that tight grip control of his is manifested in the form of his Tejas. Now, Jnana and Shakti are given a Swarupa called Sankarshana. Aishwarya and Bala are given a Swarupa called Pradyumna, and Virya and Tejas take a Swarupa called Aniruddha. Now, these three avatars are extremely fascinating. And of these three, we can interact only with one on a daily basis. We can interact with all of them, but only through one of them can we interact with the others on a daily basis. We'll be seeing how and why. Sankarshana is an avatara that along with Pradyumna resides in an extra cosmic realm that is neither in Vaikuntha nor inside the Prakriti Mandala, inside the multiverse, but it is somewhere in between. The Pancharatra Agama states that the Garbhodaka, that is the Pralaya Samudra, the cosmic ocean from which Bhagavan creates everything, some remote fringe of that ocean, which even Devas can't easily reach, Sankarshana and Pradyumna are over there. When Sankarshana comes from the body of Shriman Narayana and Vaikuntha, for 1600 divine years, celestial years, he does a penance. And then from his body emerges Pradyumna, who penances for 1600 divine celestial years, and from his body comes Aniruddha, who again penances for 1600 celestial years. And finally, only after Aniruddha's appearance does creation start. It's from Aniruddha takes a form known as Hrishikesha through by entering the Brahmandas. Aniruddha takes a form called Hrishikesha, and it is from the navel of that Hrishikesha that the lotus comes out and Brahma is born on that, and then that Brahma is endowed with all the Tattva Shaktis, and then he starts creation. So creation before Brahma's appearance itself, so many things are happening, and these four Vyuhas are the ones that are supremely in control of all of that. Sankarshana and Pradyumna live in some extra cosmic realm that we cannot even see, and their forms are enormous. It is said that the Brahmanda is in the form of a till seed, a sesame seed, in front of Sankarshana's body. That means Sankarshana is that enormous. Now, which of these forms can we everyday see, and everyday touch, and everyday feel? We'll be seeing that in detail. Now, let's go on an overview of all the Vyuha avatars. Sankarshana. His wife is Mahamaya. She is an avatar of Shri, like how he is an avatar of Narayana. Now, his powers are peculiar. He has all of Bhagavan's destructive powers, all of his disease healing powers. He is the infinite repository of all of Bhagavan's wisdom. That is, he is the database of Vaikuntha. He has Maya Shakti. He is the supreme repository of Bhagavan's Maya Shakti. What is Maya Shakti? We come across this word in so many places, but Bhagavad Ramanujacharya in the Bhagavad Gita Bhashya, he explains Maya Shakti in a very simple way. It is that aspect of Bhagavan's power that is able to induce Rajasic and Tamasic gunas in nature. That is, simply put, Maya Shakti. The ability of Bhagavan to delude and control creations by instilling Rajasic and Tamasic, Asuric and Rakshasic gunas in creation. That is Maya Shakti. And being the supreme repository of destructive powers, he is also given the power of powering celestial weaponry such as Kaumodakastra, the Yamadanda, Kaladanda, Brahmastra, etc. The mantras that you invoke, Sankarshana plays a hand in powering those mantras when Raja Rishis and Devas invoke these celestial weapons. The Sankarshana has certain avatars. Now Bhagavan takes avatars in very peculiar ways. Certain avatars of Bhagavan like Rama, Krishna are defined as Purna avatars. That is, Sakshat Vaikuntha Vasudeva himself has come in that form of that avatara. Whereas there are a class of other avatars known as Amsha avatars. Amsha avatars can be very peculiar. Let me explain how. For example, Sankarshana has two Amsha avatars whom we famously know as Garuda and Adisesha. What are these two Amsha avatars? Garuda and Adisesha are Nitya Suris. They are not Jivatmans. They are Atmans sitting eternally in Vaikuntha. They have never been in Prakriti. They have always been there only. And whenever Sankarshana wills it, he gives them a bodily form wherever he wants. He gives the Atman called Garuda, he gives it a bodily form in the form of an eagle, endows it with his powers, gives it his intelligence, and then he allows that Garuda to do certain things within the boundary of Prakriti wherever it takes an avatara, but under his supreme will. His supreme will always keep overriding it. So while this is a Jivatman that is allowed to, this is a Nitya Suri, an Atman that is allowed to do various things on its own, those things are all explicitly triggered by Bhagavan only. He is basically using Garuda like a remote controlled car or a remote controlled drone basically. Same with Adisesha. Now there are another class of Amsha avatars which you can see below in the screen over here. Shiva, Durga, Ganesha, Skandha, they also come as an Amsha Kala of Sankarshana. Now, how are they different from Garuda and Adisesha? Simple. Shiva, Parvati, Ganesha, Skanda are Jivatmans, unlike Garuda and Adisesha. Their Atmans are not in Vaikuntha. They are very much inside the universe, and like you and me, they are also Jivatmans. Then how are they different from us? Why is the Jivatman called Shiva? Why is it Shiva? And why is the Jivatman, which is a dog on the street, a dog on the street? Simple. That Jivatman called Shiva, it did those penances across so many kalpas, so it has been given the chance to be Shiva for this kalpa and maybe the next kalpa and maybe several other kalpas. But it's definitely a Jivatman. It has karma phala. So in the screen, Shiva, Parvati, Ganesha, Skanda, they all have karma phala. Unlike Garuda and Adisesha who have no karma phala. They have something called their own will because they are Jivatmans like us. Then how do we call them as Amshas of Sankarshana? And how are they different from Garuda and Adisesha? The difference is the nature. Garuda and Adisesha are muktas, they sit in Vaikuntha, whereas these are jivas, they are within the universe. Garuda and Adisesha are directly under the control of Bhagavan and they have voluntarily given up their free will, whereas these devas have free will. Sankarshana selects the Atman who has to be Shiva and he gives it an external form, he endows it with powers, he endows it with intelligence and he gives it a certain level of free will according to its prarabdha karma and he allows that Shiva to go around doing whatever he wants. That Shiva is also subservient to him. But unlike Garuda, Shiva's actions earn him karma. Garuda's actions don't earn him karma. Why? Because Garuda has no free will of his own. All his will is surrendered. So Garuda is more under the control of Shriman Narayana than Shiva. You can say that in one sense. In one sense. Garuda is more of a remote control toy than Shiva is for Shriman Narayana. Because Garuda is already a Mukta. He has already surrendered his will eternally to Shriman Narayana. So all these devas that we see across Itihasa Puranas, these devas, these Raudra devatas, these Rudra Ganas, we say Shiva Ganas, they all are connected to Sankarshana. And it is through the Shakti of Sankarshana that they all manifest. And that's why they are destructive, because he has the powers of destruction and he endows them with the powers of destruction. So all Raudra Ganas and Rudra Devatas are Sankarshanas, emanations in one sense. Sankarshana also performs the role of giving Shastra Jnana to rishis like Shiva. So Shiva tells in the Ahirbudnya Samhita to Narada that in Treta Yuga, I did penance to Sankarshana, and Sankarshana told me to perform a certain kind of a penance, a very peculiar penance which no other rishi can perform. And when I performed that, he revealed to me the Atharvana Veda. So Shiva was the one who was responsible for the existence of Atharvana Veda. Why? Because Sankarshana wanted him to do a certain penance and get that Veda in a certain way. So Shiva assembled that Veda in a certain by doing a certain special penance that is known only to him. So Sankarshana is known also for giving special divine knowledge because he is the supreme database of all the Vedic knowledge of Shriman Narayana. So whenever you want a certain knowledge about Bhagavan to be revealed to you, it is my personal advice because it has worked for me. Pray to Sankarshana, it will happen. If you want to know a certain secret of a certain Purana, or why a certain something happens, why, or if you want to gain the knowledge of learning a Purana like Varaha Purana or Garuda Purana or Harivamsha Purana, or if you want to learn Mahabharata or whatever, pray to Sankarshana, he will find a way for you. So whenever you want knowledge of the Vedas, you pray to this Bhagavan, he will do it for you. The next Vyuha Avatara is Pradyumna. This is the more constructive Avatara. Pradyumna's powers include establishing, its primary role is to establish the word of Dharma amongst creations in their minds. He also is responsible for the propagation of species, that is, more species getting created. So, as you would have already guessed, Brahma, Kashyapa, the Brahma Rishis, Vaivasvata Manu, etc., are all Amshas of Pradyumna because they are involved in two things. They go around giving pravachana, they go around giving upanyasas, they go around teaching Vedas, they teach Upanishads, they teach the Vedic philosophy to great rishis and they propagate the Vedas. They establish the word of the Vedas. They tell kings like Raja Rishis how to govern over creatures and they create species. Kashyapa is responsible for the creation of the Nagas, the Devas, the Rakshasas, Asuras, humans. He is responsible for the creation of all this. So they participate in the creationary cycles of Brahma and in spreading Vedic knowledge. That's the primary role. So Vedavyasa himself is an Amsha avatara of Pradyumna. Amsha avatara, he is not a Purna avatara. There is a Jivatman over there whom Pradyumna controls. Manu, the Manus who come in every Manvantara, Swayambhuva Manu, Swarochisha Manu, Raivata Manu, Tamasa Manu, Chakshusha Manu, Vaivasvata Manu, these all Manus are Amshavataras of Pradyumna and none other. The Brahma Rishis, Vasishtha, Bhrigu, Agastya, Gautama, Pulaha, Pulastya, Kratu, Kashyapa, all Amshavataras of Pradyumna. Brahma himself, Chaturmukha, the four-headed Brahma, Amsha of Pradyumna. And here is where we come to a very peculiar event that the Agamashastras, the Pancharatra describes. From the navel of Aniruddha, the third Vyuha Avatara, Brahma emerges, but Brahma has the powers of Pradyumna. He emerges from Aniruddha, but he has the powers of Pradyumna, and he creates creations which have the powers of Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and he sometimes ends up even giving rise to a Purna Avatara of Shriman Narayana himself. What we understand from this is that these Vyuha avatars don't work independently. They are like this invincible team of four who keep working in parallel with each other and they keep expending their powers to make things happen. They are constantly in touch with each other and they keep working. Pradyumna is also responsible for setting the stage for creation to start. So Pradyumna, from his forehead, he takes the dimensionality of space-time, the space-time dimension in the form of a capsule. Pradyumna removes it from his forehead like an ornament and hands it to Aniruddha. This is explained in Ahirbudnya Samhita of Pancharatra. And Aniruddha enters it in the form of Rishikesha and his various other forms, creates Brahma, creates the Brahma Rishis, creates the Devas, creates humans, creates Rakshasas, Asuras, Yakshas, plants, animals, etc., etc., etc. And the whole circus begins like that. Pradyumna, however, is the person who, from his own body, manufactures space and time, it seems. That's what the We cannot even imagine how that happens, but that's what the Agama says. And as Vaishnavas, we just blindly follow it. He manufactures space and time which Aniruddha operates, and in some kalpas, Pradyumna and Aniruddha exchange their roles. So this is Pradyumna for you. And then finally, and his wife is Mahalakshmi. And finally, Aniruddha. Probably the most fascinating of the three is Aniruddha. Why? Because it is this Bhagavan who is constantly in touch with you and me, even as I am speaking. He is the Antaryami who is residing inside the heart of every single non-living and living thing. He is inside you. He is inside me. He is inside the sun. He is only manifesting as a Tulasi plant, as the Ganga water. He is only manifesting as the idol of Vishnu in the temple, which we call the Archa Avatara. He is only manifesting as the Shalagrama. He is only manifesting as all cows and bulls. This avatara of Bhagavan only keeps a record of the karma phalas that we perform, and he keeps triggering them, whether it's good karma or bad karma. He is the record keeping form of Shriman Narayana, and he is the closest to us in one sense. Why? Because he's literally sitting inside our heart as Antaryami. He's the sun and the sky is him. That's what the Vedas say. He's the Shalagrama. He's the cow and the bull. So whenever you go to a temple and you pray to an Archa avatar of Vishnu in the form of an idol, when you go to Parthasarathi temple in Chennai, or when you go to Srirangam, or when you go to Haridwar, or when you go to Shalagram Muktinath in Nepal, when you go to Puri Jagannath, when you go to Dwaraka, when you go to Ayodhya to worship Sri Ram, it is this Bhagavan who's there in the form of the Archa avatara, and through him he allows you to reach Paravaikuntha Vasudeva. When you go feed a cow or a bull and do Goseva, you have served this Bhagavan. When you look at a Shalagrama and lose even the sin of Brahmahatya, which the Padma Purana extols as that form of Bhagavan Sri Aniruddha, which can even remove the sin of Brahmahatya by just looking at it. It is Aniruddha who's pleased with your darshana. And Shiva has extolled the Shalagrama's greatness in Padma Purana, Puskanda. When Brahmanas and Kshatriyas and Vaishyas perform Sandhya Vandana and perform Gayatri Japa looking at the sun, they are looking at Aniruddha's body in the form of the sun. Aniruddha is that fascinating Vyuha avatara that is the closest to us in the sense of physicality. You can literally walk into a temple and tell everyone, hey, I saw the third Vyuha avatara. You can go feed a cow and say, I gave food to the third Vyuha avatara. You can go and you can take bath in the Ganga and say, I just went and took a dip in the third Vyuha avatara's Divya Sharira. You can go water a Tulasi plant and say, I just made the third Vyuha avatara very, very happy. Aniruddha is that form of Bhagavan, the third Vyuha avatara, who's very, very close, easy to reach. So that's the third Vyuha avatara for you. And finally, the boss of all, Paravaikuntha Vasudeva. What are the forms that he takes? The very well-known forms. Varaha, Rama, Narasimha, Krishna, Kalki. All are Paravaikuntha Vasudeva. All the three Vyuhas are, by the way, his bodily emanations. They are under his control. So never forget, the three Vyuhas are not individual people. They are him. Just three different bodies, performing three different roles. But they are him. What are his powers? We cannot list. Infinite. So in every Itihasa Purana story, you can actually physically see Amshavataras and Purnavataras appearing side by side. Let me give you an example. Mahabharata, Sri Krishna is a Purnavatara of Paravaikuntha Vasudeva. Balarama is an Amshavatara of Sankarshana. Vedavyasa, who lives at the same time and who goes around, who walks around in the pages of the Mahabharata preaching to Pandu, Yudhishthira, Drupada, etc., he is an Amshavatara of Pradyumna. So you can see that in the same story, in the same Purana Itihasa, multiple avatars of Vishnu performing multiple roles in accordance to the Agamashastras are already seen over there. It's just that the Itihasas will not explain it in this way, so you never knew that this is the mechanism that's going on behind it, this is the physics that is going on behind it. But ultimately, Bhagavan takes these multiple fascinating forms, and in each form he behaves like a different person, although he is not a different person, and he plays his Leela with us. So the boss of all is Paravaikuntha Vasudeva, the one who resides in Vaikuntha, Paravaikuntha. He is the one we do Sharanagati to, hoping that he will take us someday to Mukti and he will remove us from this cosmic ocean of creation and destruction where we have to keep getting reborn otherwise. We want Sayujya Mukti. Sayujya Mukti is that form of Mukti where The Jivatman sits literally on the lap of Bhagavan and experiences a level of Ananda that is equal to the level of Ananda in which Shri and Narayana themselves are, and it will keep experiencing it for all eternity. The Parashara Samhita of the Pancharatra Agamashastra says that the ultimate purpose for the existence of Vaishnava Agamas is to give you Sayujya Mukti, a place in Vaikuntha on the lap of Bhagavan himself, where the level of your happiness will be equal to the level of happiness of Shri and Narayana themselves, and you will stay in that state for all eternity. And finally, a very special guest of honor in the Agama Shastra of the Pancharatra, particularly Sudarshana. Like I already said before, if you come to temples where Pancharatra is followed, especially temples in Tamil Nadu, in Vishnu temples where Pancharatra is followed, you will invariably have a separate Sannidhi to Sudarshana Chakra. It is called Chakra Talvar, that Sannidhi. Sudarshana is a Nityasuri, but he's a Nityasuri like Garuda, like Adisesha, like the maze, like the Panchajanya conch in his hand, like the Vanamala across his neck, like the Kaumodaki lotus in his hand. They are also Nityasuris, like the Srivatsa on his chest. Then why is Sudarshana different from the others? He has been given a position whereby he will be the infinite power bank, repository of Shri and Narayana's power. And whenever they think something and something needs to be done, they will channelize their power to him and he will only do it. Aniruddha Samhita of the Pancharatra explains how every atom and every quark and every energy level in nature, literally in these words, every atom in nature is sustained second to second, nanosecond to nanosecond by the rotation of Sudarshana. It's literally written over there. And it is Sudarshana who integrates matter into the universe that we know, or who disintegrates it at the end of the Kalpa back into the Garbhodaka, cosmic ocean of Vishnu's navel. He is the hand of God, literally. He is the person who is the mainframe power bank of Vaikuntha, who gets all their thoughts, who gets all of Shri's thoughts and Narayana's thoughts into material form. And whenever Bhagavan comes into battle to do battle against Asuras and Rakshasas on the side of the Devas, he invokes the power of Sudarshana only to do all of this. So Sudarshana is constantly helping Bhagavan everywhere. When Bhagavan took the Vishwarupa and Hastinapura, Agamashastras explain that he invokes Sudarshana to create a separate dimensional channel in the middle of the court of Hastinapura whereby he can project his Paramatma form, because Hastinapura is on the earth. It cannot sustain the form of Bhagavan in the form of Paramatma because the nature over here is not programmed to do that. But Sudarshana creates a separate warp over there, a warp space over there where he projects that image and he shows Krishna in the form of Paramatma. This is the service that Sudarshana does eternally for Sri and Narayana, and for that he has a special place in Agamas. Finally, a word of a particular thing that has to be mentioned about Sudarshana is that the various celestial weapons that Lord Rama gets from Vishwamitra, that Arjuna gets from Shiva, the Pashupatastra, the Brahmastra, the Kaumodakastra, the Yamadanda, the Kaladanda, the Kala Chakra, these astras that Devas like Indra, the Vajrastra of Indra, there are so many weapons that the Devas use, right? The celestial weapons. All of them are avatars of Sudarshana. Ahirbudnya Samhita, Shiva explains it, and each of them have a form, and each of them have a mantra. And whenever a mantra is recited, whether it's a weapon mantra, or whether it's a Sandhya Vandana Gayatri Japa mantra, or whether it is any mantra, Purusha Sukta mantra, Sudarshana appears in an invisible form in the place where it is being recited. He appears on the head of the reciter in a particular form, and he powers the body with a Shakti. A very, very weird physics exists behind this, which we cannot see perceivably, but the Agamashastras explain it. It's a strange physics. Shri makes Sudarshana come in the form of a Shakti Swarupa, and he gives that power physically to the performer of the mantra, and he disappears from there. This is a service that Sudarshana is doing every nanosecond that the multiverses are existing, and he is the sustainer of theirs. He's the wheel that is making the universes, the multiverse go around and around. And so he deserves a special position. Conclusion: of 108 pure Vedic Vaishnava Agamas, only two remain, Vaikhanasa and Pancharatra. Agamas give you plethora of ways to approach Bhagavan. and a plethora of ways to do dharmic living, but their highest gift of any Agama is guiding you how to go to Vaikuntha, leaving the cycle of birth and death. They give you many other things also. They will tell you how to go to Goloka. They will tell you various things. But the highest gift in the hand of an Agama Shastra is to tell you how to leave samsara itself and go off to Paravaikuntha. Now, not all parts of the Vedic Agama are followable for us. Some parts can be followed by us, and therefore only those parts are taught to us. So, in order to become a follower of an Agama, the first step is to get initiation. For Vaishnava Agamas, there is a ceremony called Samashrayana. You get that initiation done, and after that you have to lead a strictly, before that and after that, but specifically after that, you have to lead a strictly dharmic life. You should regulate your eating habits, your lifestyle, your discipline. You should be in a state of Vaishnava discipline, basically speaking, and then you will be licensed to perform all the rites of the Agama Shastras and please Shriman Narayana and all the Nitya Suris, and finally attain their lotus feet in Paravaikuntha. So that's a run up of the Agama Shastras in this episode. We conclude by saying that always perform any action of devotion in a manner that is pleasing to Bhagavan and not in a self defined manner. As always, help Dakshina Vrindavan to save cattle. Every time you save cattle, the third Vyuha Avatara, Aniruddha, is pleased immensely. And Dakshina Vrindavan is doing a great job, so please help them save cattle. And no dharma is possible without Aniruddha Bhagavan's blessing in the form of the Gau Vamsha. And so I take your leave. Remember, always show reverence to Shriman Narayana in a manner that he likes and not in a manner that is self defined. Srimate Narayana Namo Namah.